Okay, in the last video, we kind of left off with this problem here. This is our first application problem we're looking at. And we kind of were at a loss for sort of what to call these different things. So now we're gonna learn some terms, right? And so we have another example here, and we've got these four terms that we're going to start using. We've got peak, trough, amplitude, and midline. Now, peak is, most of you are probably familiar with what the word peak means, right? Peak means it's kind of like it's the height, it's the top height of something. And so this is always the maximum y value. Remember, y represents your up and down, right? That's your horizontal distance. So it's your maximum y value reached by periodic function. So in that one, that would have been like 18, right? Right up there, right? And then a trough, all right? So that's pronounced almost like this, like troff, right? We say trough, right? So think of the word cough. It is the minimum, so the lowest y value reached by a periodic function, all right? So peak and a trough. And a trough is kind of a name of like something that like, an animal, like a farm animal, will drink water out of, and if you think about those, they're usually pretty low. So we've got our highest point and our lowest point, and then the amplitude. This is a slightly weird concept. All right, amplitude is half the vertical distance between a peak and a trough. So the amplitude and midline are kind of important to sort of learn together. The midline is sort of like the line that splits your periodic function. So right down the middle, right? And we could have done that with ours right through that center, kind of where the middle of the pedal went, right? So right through here, this would have been like our midline where 11 was, right here, right? That would have been our midline on that one. So for this one, right, you've got your midline. And so what your amplitude is your amplitude is basically it's the highest and or lowest distance away from that midline, right? And they say it's half the vertical distance between a peak and a trough. Well, if your midline is truly a midline, that's exactly, what we're talking about, the distance from the midline to your peak or to your trough, right? So half, if you think of that as looking at the overall distance, or if you find that midline first, either way, they both get you to what you're looking for. And the midline, as we said, is the line that splits this periodic function in half. And so we've got this problem here, right? And so you got a peak. The peak is at 5. Your trough is at 1, which means that your overall distance is 4. So if your overall distance is 4, because I did 5 minus 1, that means your amplitude would be half of that. So 4 divided by 2 is 2, right? And if you look at that, that makes sense because your midline goes right between, and the distance from 3 to 5 or from 3 to 1 is 2, right? And then your period is one complete cycle of it. So you could go from here to here, or you could go from here to here. Doesn't really matter, but it's either way, it's 4, right? It's a period of 4 seconds or 4 whatever it is we're talking about. All right, so let's apply these to first of all to our bicycle problem. All right, and so we know this is 18 right here, and this is 18. We know our lowest point was 4, right? And then our middle point was 11, right? And so our period is going to be the distance from here to here. And if you look back at the original problem, the period would be the distance it takes to go around one full time. And you can get that from the graph also from here to here, and it's 2 seconds, right? So let's say 2 seconds, right? 2 seconds. The peak is the highest point, so that's at 18 inches, right? Your trough is your lowest point, that's when the pedal's all the way down, and that's at 4 inches. Your amplitude is, well, let's take that 18 to 4 is 14 inches and cut that in half, so our amplitude is 7 inches, and that's the distance from either the peak or the trough to the midline, and our midline is at 11 inches. Right, I'm going to take a look at this and see how they write that, but we'll call it 11 inches is where our midline is. If we want it to be technical, we could say it's y equals 11, right? But I think we understand what we mean when we say 11 inches. All right, let's take a look at another one. So on this problem here, right, it looks like this thing goes from -6 to -4. This is about halfway. So I'm thinking if that's the case, that this is probably going to be our midline right here, right? So our midline is going to be at -5, okay? Our amplitude is going to be, well, your total distance is from -4 to -6, so that's 2, right? It's a distance of 2, and half of that would be 1. So my amplitude is 1. We don't have any units on here, so we're just going to leave it like that. Trough is your lowest point. Well, your lowest point is right here, which is at -6. And peak, your highest point is at -4. And then our period, it looks like it goes from -90 to 90 to go from the lowest to the top. So to get back from there probably puts you at about 270, right? So basically it's from -90 to 270, right? Or we could do it from here and then where it crosses the midline again here. So either way you slice it, it's 360 units, whatever it is we're talking about, degrees or radians. I'm guessing we're talking about degrees, but we'll just leave it without a unit. So that's kind of what we're looking at here, right? So those are the words we need to know in order to do these. And if you know that enough, that is enough for you to be able to kind of analyze and just sort of get any important information off of the graph, so that later on we can compare these things. Hope this has been helpful. The next video is going to be the homework help video, and we'll see you there.